on your dial.
Hey, stream has started. Okay. Hey, Lee, because your microphone is up there at the computer, it's helpful if you'll lean forward a little bit and just reduce the space between your mouth and your microphone. That would be
How's
good.
that? Better?
That's pretty good. Yeah. All right.
If I get closer, I'll be on the other side. So I think I'm
That's the gentleman in the middle of your screen here is Chris Tarr. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Not bad. And what's your story?
I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. By I am Kirk's co-host. And
no, you're my co-host.
That's what
I'm
your
co-host.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
All right, let me go find our distribution model here. Lee, we're not quite ready to start yet. We're about a couple minutes away from starting, maybe 3. And
I wonder where all my room noise is coming from. Jeez.
All your room noise? You have room noise?
Yeah, listen, can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's like I turned off my furnace and everything, my air conditioner and everything. I don't know. It is.
Chris,
I have the new Chameleon though, which makes me sound really good. The angry audio guy. Yeah.
Stand by. I'm getting ready to distribute the show here as soon as I can figure this out.
Distribute away.
I'm working on it.
I love the old days of rural radio. You go away and you talk. Hey.
Yeah, in the old days, you just turn on the microphone and talk. Now we have to distribute the show everywhere.
There you go.
All right, posted there. Now let's go to my page. And,
there we go. I got the gate set right.
There we go. We'll like and share that over to the TWiRT page. Maybe some people are expecting it. Suncast, as usual, thanks in advance for producing another fantastic show. I appreciate your avid
and this one as well. Appreciate you producing this one too.
What are you talking about?
Well, I didn't think you meant this was the fantastic show.
Chris, you're incorrigible.
What?
Does your wife ever tell you that?
She tells me lots of things. I don't know if incorrigible is any of them, but I get called a lot of different things.
Oh my goodness. Did this share to the TWiRT page or not? Once again, Facebook is behaving like abnormally.
Should I get you a 13-year-old to help you out, or
that would be ideal? Yes. Chris, have you figured out how to set the? Go ahead.
Nothing. He said 13-year-old. I said jail. Whatever.
Which clock are you going to make the joke about now, Kirk?
Have you figured out how to set the clock on your DVR? Because I'm still working on mine.
I don't have a clock on my DVR.
Oh.
Because I have my DVR on right down here on a server. So you could just step right off set? At this point. What's that?
Is the clock set?
There is no clock on it. It's a NAS.
Oh, well, how does it know what time to record a show?
Well, it gets NTP, so it already knows what time it is.
Man, you're fancy. Good gosh.
Well, yeah.
You're one of them fancy engineers.
Yeah.
All right. The show is distributed out to where it should be. We are within seconds, my friends, of being on the air. Let me just make sure I've got my my rundown and sponsors ready to go. Yes, we do. All right. All right. Well, it's a minute after the top of the hour, so it's time for us to start. Hey, everybody, I'm Kirk Harnack. Welcome to This Week in Radio Tech. We're about to start the show. This is still the part of the show that gets cut out. I haven't done the countdown yet. But although you're seeing it, you see what you're watching right now is ephemeral. It'll go away eventually, and there will only be the finished product. Thanks to Suncast, our producer, and Chris Tarr and everybody else who helps get this done. All right. I've stalled enough. I have a margarita, a Zaxby's margarita right here. Here we go. This Week in Radio Tech, episode 715, and we'll start the show in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower. You know, this room right here feeds about 5 different towers, so there's 5 light bulbs. Hi, I'm Kirk Harnack, delighted to be with you, and thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a very fun show today. It'll be less about technical stuff and more about the things we love about radio. Our guest is amazing. Chris Tarr is here as the co-host, and he's got stories to tell as well, and I might have something fun to tell as well. But our show, This Week in Radio Tech, is brought to you by some amazing sponsors, including Nautel and Max Connect and Angry Audio and Broadcasters General Store and Broadcast Bionics. So when you get a chance, please, patronize these sponsors. Check them out. Check out their websites. We'll tell you about them as the show goes on. So where am I? I'm at my radio station in Cleveland, Mississippi. Larry Fuss and I have a few radio stations here, and I was at the Mississippi Broadcasters Association at their convention in Biloxi, Mississippi just yesterday. There was an SBE-NS workshop there, and I was honored to speak there along with Jeff Welton and Mike Pappas, and Wayne Pacina was there as well. We hopefully educated a few people on some engineering things and had some fun in the meantime. So thought I'd make a stop here at Cleveland, Mississippi, fix a few computers, replace an STL transmitter, and replace some batteries in an old UPS. Just about everything is done, so we'll be moving on from here. That's enough about me, though. Chris Tarr is here. Chris Tarr, welcome in. Good to see you from Mukwanago.
Hello there. I'm trying to recover. I am so sore. We did our big installation of the Valcom antenna on my AM in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. We had a tower fall about a year and a half ago, and I've been running on an STA with a long wire antenna. Finally got the Valcom antenna, which is one of those new style, top loaded. It's about 70 feet tall. It's got a big sphere thing on the top, and got that finally got it in the air last week. And then yesterday I got it all connected and commissioned and put on the air. So pleasantly, people have been asking because it is fairly new. Not many of them out there. So people have been asking, how it's been going. I can say from experience now, a good ground system helps. I mean, this thing performs about as well as the original tower, but we also have a really good ground system. Aged for 1400 kilohertz and up because of the height. And I highly recommend they sell an optional tuning unit. Now, we already had one, but this one comes pre-tuned. So basically, you connect it to the tower. The other end is 50 ohms J0. Put that into your transmitter. And I had it on the air in, 20 minutes. It was pretty impressive.
Wow. Hey, not for this show, but another show, I got to ask you about that spherical thingy at the top of the Valcom. I got to believe you know how all the jets these days have those winglets at the end? It's got to be like that, but for radio. That's
exactly. Yep. That sounds about right.
All right. Well, Chris, joining us today is a very interesting guest. And I met this guy on Facebook, and then I found out that he's like radio famous. And so let's bring him in now. Ladies and gentlemen, his real name is Lee Melton, but he's got a number of aliases because there are sheriff's departments across the country that have looked for him over his career. Lee Melton, welcome in. It's great to see you.
Well, thank you, my friend. And by the way, there's 3 jails that really want me back in, but we'll talk later.
Oh my gosh! So Lee, when you and I first started talking, you told me that your career started at the age of 17 at KFI. I guess that's Los Angeles, and went downhill from there. We'll get the whole story as we go through, but give us a little elevator talk about who is Lee Melton.
Actually, I'm just a guy that loves radio. I was 17, went to KFI with a friend, and he had to go to the bathroom. And the old man, which now is probably younger than me, walked in and said, "Hey, kid, you want a job?" Sat me down at the board and said, "Just say KFI Los Angeles once an hour." 59 minutes and probably 52 seconds and nailed it for 3, 4 weeks. And then it went to Roseburg, Oregon.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some stories to tell, including there's a title that you have carried with pride in your career, and that I want to say it was King of Trade. Is that right?
Yeah. Actually traded a funeral once for one of my partners in radio, 50,000 bucks. And I traded my last station close to $1 million worth of doors, equipment, station vehicles, and in a permit for day beyond a year. And my engineer, I put him up in the Hilton for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Cost me probably 80,000 bucks in hotel trade. Yeah, I'm the king of trade. Anybody
Oh
else you
my.
know who traded a funeral? Talk to me.
Chris, did I tell you this was going to be a fun show? Are you looking forward to the hour ahead?
Sure, absolutely did.
All right. Well, folks, we've given you a little taste of Lee Melton. He'll be coming up. We'll be telling stories, and I want to hear about what Lee remembers about his control rooms from the 19 whenever he started, late 60s into the 70s. What the control rooms looked like and the equipment that he dealt with. Plus, we're going to hear radio stories too, and I can't wait. Chris Tarr's got a couple things to add, and maybe I'll have a story to add as well. But big city radio is a little different than what I grew up with, in central Kentucky in small towns. Hey, our show this week in Radio Tech, right off the bat, is brought to you by Nautel. And Nautel has their HD radio digital test drive. That's what they are wanting you to know about. And they're offering this test drive as a way for broadcasters, primarily in the U.S., but it's good for Canada too, and other countries where HD radio is popular or is the standard. The idea here is to break down the barriers that have been keeping stations from trying HD radio. HD radio has the potential to unlock new listeners for you, let you put out some new formats, maybe other languages, maybe a music format that's missing in your market. Maybe your competitor has a real popular format that you want to try to take a bite out of. I mean, you can do that. Plus, HD radio gives you things like a beautiful title and artist, but also album artwork can easily be put on HD radio, plus your station logo. And there's even new possibilities with the new EAS system that's been developed by Digital Alert Systems, Nautel, and by Telos Alliance called EAS at the Edge. Check this thing out. So for a minimal cost, you can turn on HD radio transmission on your station, test new revenue opportunities. You can counter competing alternate media, all the other things that are on the dashboard now. Makes you really stand out. What you need to get started, you lease or you purchase a Nautel GV2 transmitter, or you upgrade your existing GV transmitter to a GV2. And that's a worthwhile upgrade in and of itself. Then you also need an Xperi main station or equivalent license and a signed trial agreement with Nautel. And then you need some content, produce another channel or two of interesting programming. And we're doing that in Oxford, Mississippi, just up the road from here. We're doing oldies on an HD2 and a light urban AC on an HD3. Plus, we've got alt rock on the FM and the HD1. We put this on a year ago without the benefit of this test drive. You can do it and save a ton of money by contacting your Nautel representative. Thanks a lot, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, we're here with Lee Melton, and Chris Tarr is along too. Lee, I want to hear more about you getting started at KFI. Can you tell us what you remember about the control room when you walked in to kind of start doing your announcing?
Oh my God, we had the old, I think, Gates board, the old dials, the old pots. Yeah. I wasn't there that long. I was young, didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground. I say yes, but we can't say yes, right? Okay, say. And it was a crazy time. I was young, making more money than I had ever made in my life, and like for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I fell in love with the craft of radio. And by the way, I did stutter as a child, so I had to overcome that little impedance, as they say,
Yep.
and got into radio. Weird.
Would you say that when you started there doing the top of the hour and just that, do you feel like you had a strong radio voice then at that tender age of 17?
I've never had a great radio voice. I have the energy to do top 40. If I did a little sit at KFRC, I met Bill Lee and
Oh yeah.
Broadway Bill Lee, and it dawned on me I'll never be that good. But I always had the energy to give you what you want.
Now, Chris Tarr, you've heard plenty of top 40 DJs, and when I was in high school, so I was probably actually 15, just turning 16. I was working at WEKY in Richmond, Kentucky, and the station manager, a guy named Ted Johnson, he's still around, owns some stations in Nashville now. Ted brought an announcer in. I forget his name. I want to say his last name may have been Bell, but he came in. And I didn't think he had a good voice at all, but oh my goodness, did he have the energy and just made you want to listen through and stay tuned for the next song. I mean, he was so excited about the song he just played and the next song that it just came out of your radio speakers, his excitement. Chris, you guys experienced that up where you live?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I got started really early. I mean, my first, I don't know, I was probably 19 when I got my first big top 40 job. And that was at a pretty influential top 40 station in Wisconsin, 100 kilowatt, big FM out of Green Bay. And then that actually, before I was 21, was in Milwaukee at a major market there. So, I ran into a lot of people. And I remember as a program director, I've always said, I have no problem hiring somebody who may not have the best radio voice if they've got an amazing personality. And history shows, I mean, some of the biggest personalities in the country really don't have a typical radio voice, but they're just very, very talented people. I'd rather hear those people all day long over somebody with a great voice.
That's a good point. I would agree with that. Lee, you mentioned some of the people that you've worked with. Broadway Bill Lee. Now, I never knew he was on the West Coast. I always knew him as a New York guy, but I've only known him about 8 or 9 years now. Tell me about either Broadway Bill Lee or anybody else really influential for you.
Actually, I met Bill back in 82, 83. Did a little weekend stint at KFRC. He was so impressive, 6 to midnight. My God, he kicked my butt. He kicked everyone's ass. Sorry, can't say that word. But I was so impressed by the way that he can just talk. The energy is there. And when you see him in a normal interview, he doesn't talk that way. He's like normal, like us.
Okay. He kind of does that rhyming thing as he talks into a song intro, at least what I've heard in from his New York work. Did he do that then? Did he rhyme up through the song intro?
And actually, he would rhyme the liners for the spots. It would be bizarre. He would talk about the weather, the next concert coming up, but the liner for the appliance store, he'd tie in and rhyme it. I could never do that. And that's when I got into the business side of radio.
Well, don't go far. We'll let it out of the jar because our next up, we got Chris Tarr. That's the kind of thing he would do.
No, I've been a big follower of Bill Lee for years and years and years. And, every station he's been at, he's done that. And he's just such a talented guy with a brain that runs 100 miles an hour and a mouth that runs just about as fast. And just an amazing guy. And there's a guy who, for example, I don't know that he's super topical, but he is in his own way with the rhyming. And that's just one of those things that is just he could have any voice in the world, but that content that he does with the rhyming is so cool. I can't do it. I couldn't even do it if I tried. Even if I wrote it out, I couldn't do it.
Chris, I'm going to come back to Chris in a minute about building studios for talent that has very particular needs or desires. But Lee, I wonder if I may ask you, think about what's the nicest, most amazing control room you've ever worked in, and what made it so good for you.
Probably the one I built in Beaumont, Texas. I actually did a stand-up operation for my producer and the talk room, and I built the console too high, so I had to build a step up. But I had the best board, the best. Yeah, I know. I'm not good at math. Sorry, but no, I'm probably more proud of that than anything else. In little Beaumont, Texas.
Well, now I would have thought that the nicest one would have been in a big market, but it's something that you designed. Now, tell me what led you to build the stand up that was so it was too high that you had to go step up on a board to get up even higher. How'd that mistake get made, or was it a mistake?
Yeah, it was a big mistake. I was actually planning out my little station, and I had all the trade that I did, and I actually brought in my contractor that I traded with, and had him build this thing to my height. Turns out the kids are not my height; they're smaller, so they couldn't actually see the talk show host. Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing, but hey, we got through it.
All right. Well, Chris, to you, talk to me about have you had to build a studio to suit the likes of somebody in particular?
Well, I've kind of got two stories to go along with that. One of them is a little more funny, talking about working with talent. And I will, the station will remain nameless just because I don't want anybody figuring out who this was. But I was doing an automation installation, and the morning show had their own studio with their own automation system or whatever to play on the air. And I'm working with the local engineer, and I'm putting the new equipment in, the new automation stuff into his studio. And the engineer said, "Well, you can't do that." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "Well, the morning guy wants things his own way. I mean, you just can't be putting stuff in there." And I said, "Well, we got to get this done." So, I put the stuff in there. I get there the next morning, stuff's sitting outside in the hallway. And I said, "Okay." So I took the stuff and I put it back in the studio again, in this morning guy's studio. Next morning, we're getting ready to commission things. It's out in the hallway again. So finally, I tracked this guy down and I said, "Listen, I get it. You don't like it. That's fine. But I'll tell you what, tomorrow we're going to go on the air whether you like it or not. And if that stuff isn't in there, you're not going to be on the air." That's what's going to be playing back. So, if you don't want it, that's fine. I'm done playing. But they're gonna hit the switch tomorrow morning, and there's nothing going to happen because you're not going to have an automation system. So that pretty well fixed that problem. He didn't say another word to me after that. But I think it's the best. One of the better studios I built was the Radio Milwaukee studio, and I got a lot of input on the announcers there. That was long after I'd been on the air, and I think that helps. The fact that I was on the air, I kind of know, what works and what doesn't work. But I sat down with each one of them and said, "Okay, write out your list of things that you would love to see in the studio, and we'll do the ones that we can do." And it was an interesting. We ended up with a little performance stage in the studio, just like a riser kind of thing. We actually put a pneumatic lift on the countertop so you could sit or stand, because half the people wanted to sit, half the people wanted to stand. So hit this button and it pushes the desktop up. So, a lot of really cool features there. And it was 100% based on feedback, because I'd rather, I come from the school of, I would rather build a studio that works for them than having them try to work with the studio. Our job is to make content creation for these people super easy and then get out of the way. So I had no problem admitting that I should not be the one to design the studio. Tell me what you want. We'll go through this plan and we'll make it happen. And that studio turned out amazing. I mean, people loved working in there because it was so, even just simple things like, USB jacks in the countertop to plug in their phones or their iPads or whatever, stuff like that just, I wouldn't have thought of on my own, but these people, the people on the air, These are things that, I hadn't been on the air since, before iPhone. So I never would have guessed a USB port, but they're like, oh yeah, we'd love to have a USB port, maybe even a jack for our phone to plug into for audio and stuff. Great. So I set all that up and it worked out really well for them.
Lee, you said that your favorite control room was the one that you built. What are some features that you've really liked? Like maybe carts that would queue each other, that would one it would end, it would start the next one, or maybe 3 turntables, or what are some things that you've liked and enjoyed in a studio?
Man, that's a great question. I like the fact that we get the signal from the station to the towers.
Well,
It was crazy.
Good. Yeah.
That was a crazy time. But no, I had a morning guy that I loved to death. A handful, kind of like herding cats. So talented, but he couldn't keep his things together on the air. I mean, great technical work, but it was such an interesting time in my life that I know you got me thinking about so many things. Sorry.
Now, have you always had in your early days? Did you always have cart machines, or did you have a technology that preceded cart decks?
Oh no, I love cart decks. I love cart machines. My God, I hate computers. I hate all this crap that they're doing. Give me a cart machine, 3 turntables, some disc, which we call records now, kids, and I'm in heaven. All the computer stuff with the programs. I used to work for Clear Channel when they started coming in with all of the computer crap, and then firing all the DJs. It's like, wow. Let's try to make radio a little more friendly to the folks working and to the audience. But hey,
Chris, are you old enough to have cart machines that maybe didn't fire each other sequentially, and then maybe like I did when I was probably, I don't know, 18, 19 years old, maybe 20, and I was reading the manual that the cart machine you could do like a secondary tone or a terse tone, and you could make it fire the next one. And so within a week, I had all that wired up with switches that I drilled holes in the board to, so you could enable or disable, the cart machines firing, and I could actually get them and walk away while I had to go through and record all the carts. Had to add sec tones on all the carts. Did you ever come across that, Chris? Are you that old?
Well, yeah, I played records for gosh sakes. I ran into, I had triple deckers that just you fired manually. And then when I got my first big market gig, they had a sequencer and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Except that all we sequenced was spots. We couldn't sequence music or jingles because they wanted us to manually do those segues on our own and not have it sequenced. But it was great to, have a stop set. And at a big market, they were, a couple minutes long for sure. Pop a bunch of the carts in. And I think this had like 6 or 9 decks. And you could load everything up, start the first spot, walk away, go do what you're going to do and come back. So, but yeah, that was like amazing when I ran into that. I'm like, wow, you can do that. This is great. Technology's awesome.
Oh my God. Hey, Bill, we're going to do a spot break here, Bill, but when we come back, Bill, I'm sorry, Lee, you and I
think of Bill Lee, aren't you?
Bill Lee on my mind. Lee, when we come back, earlier today, you and I talked about dealing with celebrities, including bands or actors and so forth at big city stations. And I want to hear a story or two about that when we come back, and whatever else you might have to talk about. This week in Radio Tech, I'm Kirk Harnack, along with Chris Tarr, my co-host, and Lee Melton is our guest. And Lee's started at KFI and went downhill from there. That's what he tells everybody. But he's been quite a talent and still does acting and voice work today. Our show is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics. And Broadcast Bionics, these guys make amazing software and some hardware solutions that make your broadcasting better. You do the same things you're doing now, but you get to capture it in different ways and republish it in social media or for contesting or whatever. So check this out, the Bionic Studio from Broadcast Bionics.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Broadcast Bionics, so cool, including virtual rack. It's just amazing. Sometimes we talk about virtual rack, but you want to check out all the Broadcast Bionics stuff. Their website is bionic.co.uk or bionics.co.uk. Check them out. Love these guys. Thanks a lot, Broadcast Bionics, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. And by the way, as an engineer, you'll be a hero for recommending and implementing some of their stuff to make your stations have a tighter connection with your listeners. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack along with Chris Tarr, and Lee Melton is our guest. Lee's a disc jockey, started at the tender age of 17, as many of us did around that age. And Lee's been in all kinds of different markets, and he's here giving us some stories. Lee, we've talked a bit about studios. If any more studios come to mind, feel welcome to interject that. But we were chatting about celebrities coming into your radio station, and I've got a story I might tell. I may have told it before, but Lee, what's a really memorable time about celebrities coming into your station? How'd you handle that? In the big cities, I'm sure that happens fairly frequently.
Well, actually, when I was in outside of Bakersfield, we were having one of the first Christian rock stations in California. And I met everyone from Denny Corral, Petra, and Striper. I know you have a story. And I opened for them in Bakersfield, California. And I actually was voted the #1 Christian DJ in '85. And I turned it down because I didn't think that DJs and Christian music should be awarded like that. And I couldn't afford the airfare, so I didn't go and get my freaking award.
Wow. All right. And you had a couple other stories that you mentioned. Yeah.
No, actually, I have a technical story. I was given betted $100 to climb a tower, 225 feet, to change the light on the top of the tower. I did it. I had no clue that towers sway at the top. I was scared as a little girl at the prom. It was crazy. Oh, no. I didn't know. Well, I got my $100, and I went back on the air that same day.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, used the $100 to buy a new pair of underwear, but there you go.
Oh yeah, totally.
I might have gone home and crawled up to the fetal position and just taken a nap.
Oh no! I was the hero of California I climbed the tower with no safety. Changed the light bulb, got my $100, and said, "No way in hell I'll ever do that again."
Oh my gosh. Chris, have you done any tower climbing, Chris Tarr?
You've seen me in person. Do I look like I've ever climbed a tower? Dude, I couldn't climb the first 3 feet. No,
come
I've
on.
never climbed a tower. I have people that do that.
You got muscle under that bulk, dude. I know you do.
No, I've got more bulk under that bulk. So forget about it.
Okay, I'll forget about it. I climbed a 400-foot tower. In fact, it was a Christian AM station in Memphis, and I had climbing gear. I had a ski rope to keep me safe.
Oh, well, at least you're safe.
About 4 feet of ski rope, that in my belt, and I changed out the big 620-watt incandescent lamps at the top of the tower. I think we turned off the 50-kilowatt transmitter while I was doing that. I think.
I don't know. Knowing you now, that damage may have already been done, I think.
Well, yeah. Lee, what you had a story about some actor from the Love Boat showing up. What was that about?
Fred Gandy, the guy that played Gopher, showed up to my station in Beaumont, Texas. Kind of a strange guy, kind of stuck up, kind of a snot, an ass. But hey, I got a picture with him, signed autograph, so I'm okay.
Okay. Well, now, Chris, in Milwaukee, that's no small market, right? You must have had some celeb run-ins or rock star run-ins.
Well, there's two that I want to talk about. One was actually at the station. The other was supposed to be and turned out entirely different. So the first one was actually, probably not more than a couple of years ago when I was still at Intercom. And I was in the, I don't remember, like the Jock Lounge or something. And Weird Al had come in to be on the air and they were showing him around. And, the person giving the tour, I was the engineer, so I'm always the afterthought, and they're walking by and they walk past the door and they went, "Oh, that's Chris. He's our engineer." And they started to walk away. And Al went, wait, those are my favorite people. And he comes running in and he throws his arm around me and yells, take my picture. So I have a picture of Weird Al with his arm around me. He's like, "These guys are the best. They're my favorite people at the radio station." I thought that was awesome. I was like, ha! Showed you, take him right by the door. So that was one. And then the other one, this one was my favorite. 1990, I want to say 1990, 1989, something like that. I wasn't old enough to drink. I was 18 or 19. And I was in LA for this big multi-day radio press event. And so, we're sitting there hanging out, and it turns out that week we were supposed to interview Paul McCartney over the phone. He had just released the album Tripping the Live Fantastic. So we were supposed to interview him on the morning show. And we were in LA. So we talked to the record rep and said, "Hey, do you think we could just come by Capitol Records and interview him in person?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. And he called back and said, "No, talk to Paul." He said, "Great." We're like, "What?" I'm going to interview Paul McCartney. Oh my God. So, I quick ran and I did some research and, cause I back then there's no internet or anything. So we walk into the Capitol Records building and we're sitting in the rep's office. We see the doors open for the elevator. This whole big posse walks out. And I'm thinking that's gotta be him. No, that was MC Hammer with his crew. So
okay.
So we're just sitting there, and by the way, Paul McCartney, as you might know, is vegan, and so there was no meat in the building. I had no idea at the time. They said, "Here, would you like a sub, little sub sandwich for lunch?" I'm like, "Great." Took a bite into his offer. It was like avocado, and I was like, "Ah!" So just something to know if you're ever going to meet Paul McCartney. So we're sitting there. He just walks in. No crowd, no entourage or anything. He just walks in and introduces himself. And I'm just like, you're Paul McCartney. So we sat down, the nicest guy. He couldn't have been nicer. And one of the things I found in my research was that he mentioned once that he and John, whenever they needed money, they would write a song. And he said, well, if I wanted to put a swimming pool in the backyard, I'd write a song and I'd take that money and we call it, writing a swimming pool. So in my interview, I said, so Paul, have you had to write any swimming pools lately? And he started laughing. He's like, I almost forgot saying that. He's like, that is so hilarious. He's like, no, haven't had to write any of those lately. And, just had a great time. And the only downside of the story was that, we had copies of his CD. And I said, hey, would you mind autographing this? And he said, yes, but because of, resales and stuff, I will only autograph it to a certain person. Well, what do? I'm an idiot. My fiance at the time, Wendy, was a big fan. So I had him autograph it to her. And 6 months later, we broke up. And I'm just like, that was the dumbest thing in the world. What was I doing? So anyway, that's the Paul McCartney story. All I have is the memories, but they're very fond. It was just couldn't have been nicer. It was just so great.
What a great story. That's awesome. That is awesome. Lee, I think, did you have an MC Hammer story or something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I met MC Hammer once, tall guy, asshole. But actually talked to Ronald Reagan in '85. I spent 3 days live on the air doing, we called it the cause for '85 after the other thing happened. And Ronald Reagan, I would call the White House every week back in the '81, '82, '83, just ask for Ron, Nancy, whatever. But he called me up and said, well, I appreciate what you're doing, Lee.
Well,
it's Captain Lee. Captain Lee, come on.
No, he's just going to say, well, Captain Lee,
all I want to do is play music and be a top 40 DJ, Lee. Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah,
Chris, that's too good, Chris. Well, Lee asked me to. I related this little story to him, and he kind of invited me here to repeat it for you. Back in some of my rock and roll engineering days in Memphis, Tennessee, I was with Rock 98. We were like the second string rock station in town, trying to become number one over Rock 103. And so we sponsored usually kind of the second tier rock concerts in town because the other station got most of the first tier stuff. And there was a band that had a couple of hits on the rock and metal charts, and they were that Christian metal band known as Stryper. Now there was also Petra, you may remember from back in the late 80s. But this was Stryper. Now, my program director there, who I generally kind of answered to, he was of the Jewish faith, and he was not real impressed with Stryper. So, and apparently the station had agreed to go pick the band up from the Peabody Hotel, bring them to the station for an interview, and then take them over to the Mud Island Amphitheater in Memphis on the river for their concert. And so he didn't want to hire a limo for that. He called me over. Kirk, would you come to my office? Yeah. He says, Kirk, this and he rolls his eyes as big as you can. He says, this Christian metal group called Stryper is in town, and we're sponsoring them. We're the official station. Would you go pick them up at the Peabody Hotel on Sunday late morning and bring them over here for an interview, and then they're going to do a concert like mid-afternoon. They got this matinee concert or something like that. I said, and I knew that my wife at the time just loved Stryper. She just loved Stryper. I mean, she didn't talk about any musical groups at all, except for Stryper. So I think she thought they were hot. And so I told him the music director, I said,
yellow and black, the yellow and black vinyl or whatever leather they used to wear. Of course. Why wouldn't she?
Of course. Yes. The spandex and all that. So, and the hair, all the hair. And so I went home and I told my then wife, and I said, we're not going to be able to go to church, or we're going to leave early Sunday. And she looks at me like, why? What's the radio station make you do now? And I said, well, we have to take the car because we had just got this new um, custom van. It was a Toyota custom van, but it was a custom van. It was only 6 months old. It was kind of nice. And I said, well, we have to go to the Peabody Hotel and pick up this group and take them to the radio station. Oh, really? Oh my God. Can't they let us have a day off? And I said, well, it's Striper. It's like, oh, can I go? Yes, of course you can go. So we picked up Striper and took him in the back entrance of the radio station because we didn't know if there'd be a crowd or a mob because they were popular. And they did the interview, and then we took him over to Mud Island, and my then wife was just Striper.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks for listening.
And also knowing that you had a shaggin' wagon is pretty awesome too.
Shaggin' wagon. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, hey, it's time for us to take a quick break. Lee Melton is our guest. Chris Tarr is along. We have more tomfoolery coming up. I know that Lee, work on a couple more stories for us. We got another 15 minutes to go here. Our show this week, and Chris, stand by. It's your time to shine because we're going to talk about angry audio. And Catfish is texting me, Chris, and he's asking if we can talk about the Rebel mic processor. Of course, it's up to you what you want to talk about, Chris. You're the spokesperson for angry audio this week. So what you got? We going to do what Catfish wants or something else?
I'm going to do what Catfish wants. I am right now using a Rebel mic processor. These things are fantastic. And I actually was able to get a B-stock version, so I saved a couple of bucks, but worth every dollar. It is the best mic processor I've ever heard. And it's so simple. I wish I could swing the camera around and show it to you, but it's a little hard to do that. But basically, because I'm now doing voice tracking things, I needed a mic processor that holds up. And I also like to not have to worry about messing with all the settings to make it sound good. This sounded great out of the box. I only had to make a couple of adjustments to do it. You've got every kind of I/O you need in the back of it. It's got the XLR. It's got the studio hub. You can do line level through it. And then on the front, there's the front panel there, and that cover that you see there pops off, and the controls are under it. And I'm telling you right now, the controls, they're so simple. I'm looking at it right now. And you've basically got input output levels. You've got the de-esser. You've got just a very simple EQ control. But one of my favorite controls on this, and you can kind of see it there, it's called room noise or room, basically. And it's like a gate, but it's amazing because it doesn't sound like one. In fact, right now, I have it turned all the way up. I have it all the way engaged, and you can't tell that I'm using a gate. But what it does is it's like all of a sudden because I have a lot of room noise, and you can still hear some of it. But I mean, it just takes that room noise and shrinks it into nothing. And in fact, Corny kind of talks about it. It almost magically adjusts the size of the room that you're in. It's just an amazing control. And again, the best part about this is the simplicity. You're not going to, if you put this in a studio, you're not going to have to worry about the settings always changing. You need a little screwdriver to make the tweaks. And so once you set it, which by the way, again, only takes a couple of minutes because it is custom designed for the RE series microphone. So it doesn't need all of the adjustments. And that was the conversation that Catfish had with Corny when they designed this. They said, well, why are there so many controls? And Corny said, well, if I knew what kind of microphone was going to connect to it, well, that's a different story. So that's what they did. So they've got the Rebel and they've got the Smooth. Rebel is RE for the RE20. Smooth is the SM for the SM5, 7. And they are basically, again, they're so simple, easy to use, and they sound great right out of the box. Even if you don't want to adjust it at all, just taking it out of the box and plugging it in makes you sound great. So check it out. It is the Angry Audio, part of their Chameleon line. This is the Rebel mic processor for the RE series from Electro Voice. Call your favorite, and we know what our favorite is for ordering your broadcast gear. Call them today, get a quote, get these in your studio. You're going to love them. I guarantee it. Angry Audio's Audio Chameleon. Get angry. That's all I can say. I got angry, and I'm very happy I did. Yes, darn it.
I'm happy I got angry. Yes, I'd like to have an argument, please.
Yes. Now I just am angry all the time, and I love it.
Hey, thanks very much, Chris, and thanks, Angry Audio. Our show also brought to you by Max Connect. And we'll talk for a second about their box, the U.192. This is a USB interface. You're thinking, what? What do I need that for? Well, so many people are trying out and people are using these FM audio processors that run on a PC. Things like Omnia SST or Stereo Tool or Breakaway One. And these products, some people use them with some people.
What he was getting into there. So I can't, I know Max Connect. They've got the Max Connect, the wireless product, which I use. In fact, I carry them around. I have one that I have in the car all the time, and basically gives you connectivity from wherever you're at. I use them for STLs. I use them for emergency backups. I have one, in fact, for telemetry at a transmitter site where I don't have a phone or a network interconnection. So these are great devices. They're basically like a Swiss Army knife for data for your transmitter sites. It is prioritized packet data. Oh, he was talking about U192 too. And what that is that's an interface where you can use a program like Stereo Tool. One of the things that people had issues with before with trying to do Stereo Tool with RDS and a pilot and all that other stuff is creating the baseband signal. And you really have to have a super high sample rate in order to do that, and a special sound card. And for years, there have been forums and things where people have been discussing, the best off-the-shelf card that generally works good, and, what do you have to modify to get it to work. This is just plug and play. You plug it into your USB port, and it's got the composite output. It's got analog outputs, and you plug that right into your transmitter, and you have got composite audio directly to where you need to go. And that means you can use software like Stereo Tool or the Omnia software to do all of your processing on a PC and know that the output is going to work with whatever you plug it into, whether it's the composite, whether it's a composite transmitter, an STL or whatever, and you plug it into your computer, it is just going to work. It's a fantastic product. Try it out. I actually checked it out in Madison. They had one out, and they are plug and play easy and a great way to use software fairly inexpensively to get yourself a full-fledged processor with RDS and things like that. Check it out, Max Connect Broadcast. It's actually in partnership with Angry Audio. It's a fantastic device. You're going to love it. Contact your broadcast dealer today for the Max Connect U192 USB sound card interface. Looks like, is Kurt back on? I see that he's logged in. There he is. Hello, sir.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, there you are.
I'm not sure what happened. I'm all wired in. Now I'm on the Wi-Fi and I'm working. So I don't know why. I don't know why the wired quit working. We're back. Thank you, Chris,
I took care of Max Connect for you. So there you go.
That's awesome. I tried to tell Lee Melton that you were a good guy, and we've just proven it, once again.
Why do you lie? Don't lie.
No.
People know I'm a good guy. They're going to seek me out.
You did a great pickup on that, losing the signal. Great pickup. Great. Nice job.
Well, all of a sudden I saw my face there. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm talking now. And then I froze because I got to be honest, I wasn't sure what you were talking about with Max Connect because I was looking at something on my phone. So I started talking about the Max Connect wireless and went, oh, that's right. I remember you saying U192. So anyway, we got it out there. We talked about two. They got a 2 for 1. There you go.
That's right. Brilliant. That's right. Awesome. Lee, I'm telling you, if this engineering thing doesn't work out, Chris can certainly go on the air and do well with that.
I can tell.
Well, I am
very
now.
Nice.
We forgot.
Oh, that's right.
I'm on the radio now.
Dude, you're making money hand over fist.
Oh, you're adorable.
You're so talented. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's called not being able to say no is really the issue.
Lee, you've talked very glowingly about your experience in Beaumont, Texas. Is that your favorite place you've ever worked in radio, or do you have some place that's really close to your heart other than that?
Actually, I love Thousand Oaks, California. I love that town. Played golf with Tim Conway. I love the station. It was back in 81, I think. But yeah, Beaumont has been very good to me, and I'm making money hand over fist. And they are so loving good radio here, which I love.
So what, Thousand Oaks, California, is that where you are now, in Thousand Oaks?
Oh, no. Actually, I'm in a little town outside of Beaumont, Texas called Sour Lake. There's no lake. It's not sour.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Thousand Oaks, I love. I love Visalia, California. Got my start in Christian radio there, and then moved to Wasco outside of Bakersfield and kicked ass,
Okay.
kicked names. But yeah, Beaumont's been very, very good to me. I've owned 2 stations. I built 2 stations and worked for every friggin' entity in town, almost. I
Have
did
you had
not
the
do
chance?
Portuguese. I'm sorry, I did not do Portuguese.
Go ahead. We got some
Go ahead.
delay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I did not work Portuguese or country or Catholic radio. But yeah, I've done everything else.
Uh, thinking about advice to other people coming up in the business, it seems like there's not as many people getting into radio as there were. There's maybe not as many jobs. Certainly, people, stations used to have a full bevy, right, of full-time announcers, and maybe they did other things around the radio station. But there's just not as many people in the business now. But for people who want to get into content creation and describing and talking on the radio and maybe doing interviews or introducing things and whatever it is in broadcasting behind the microphone, Lee, have you got some advice that you'd like to pass along to people considering your many years behind the mic?
Okay, kids. Radio is a great opportunity if you don't like making money. It's a great gig, and I think the DJs have the fragilest egos and the biggest egos in the world. But radio is still the number one thing in my life. I love radio, but with Clear Channel, Cumulus, and whoever else is out there, you have no chance anymore. Yeah, there is no shot for guys like me and you coming up in radio.
I totally agree. There is no more farm team. I mean, when I started, my first job was board opping a satellite feed at an AM country station in my hometown, and then went on to do weekends at a polka station playing records, and then full time in a small town. And I think I made a whopping $250 a week or something, but we all got our start at these small stations that needed to fill the seats. And, if you were lucky and you worked hard, you looked at the R&R opportunities page and, you moved up through the ladder, which is, how I did it and how you guys did it. And now there's no such thing. Now, some people are treating, podcasting and YouTube is kind of a farm team kind of thing. They look for talent there, but you're right. Now, there's a whole other argument about did that have to happen? There's some economic things going on there, but you're right. I mean, in terms of the job, there is no more farm team. It's basically, in fact, I would say the quality of the talent, I don't want to say got worse, but it certainly changed in markets over the years because, a lot of times you're getting people who have very little on-air experience coming in, and that's all you have anymore to fill these positions in larger markets.
It's good points, Chris. And one thing that I don't mind about other forms of content creation is they can be compatible with also being good on the radio. So if you want to get started, I mean, there's very little risk in getting started on YouTube or Instagram or other places where you can create something and try something. And if you get subscribers, great. If you don't, maybe you're not that good or your topics aren't that good. But if you get good at something and then you gain some name for yourself, and then you want to take the talent or the confidence that you gain in talking to people or doing fun things and translate that into being on the radio do a morning show, be a frequent guest, and then move into something more full time. I think that's a possibility. Maybe the farm team is other social media that's free, or you can get started and you can fail and it's okay.
I will say, Kurt, that one of the things that the benefits of voice tracking these days is we are able to get some veteran talent on the air because it's so much easier now to do the job. You're not having to come into a studio, for 4 hours, 5 days a week. In fact, I just started doing mornings myself because I could voice track it the night before. I could sit here in my office and do it. Now, I never would have taken that if I had to actually get up and go do it. But we launched this new station and we wanted somebody who, had some experience doing the morning show there. And so that, it's made sense for me because I look forward to it. But we have a guy on one of our country stations who has worked in all kinds of markets and was a big name here in Milwaukee, got retired out of Clear Channel. And he's he's on the air for us. And he loves the fact that he doesn't have to leave the house. And he sounds great on the air. So, there are some of the things that, that voice tracking has helped. And then there are some that hurt. As I say with voice tracking, a lot of the good people actually can now make a living doing this. But we have lost some of the spark and magic that was in local radio years ago.
So we're talking with Chris Tarr and also Lee Melton on This Week in Radio Tech. We're taking a break from the usual tech talk to talk about things we love about radio. And Chris, you mentioned voice tracking and how, people who may be retired from the business can still continue to work their trade and make a little money. And it just occurred to me at one of our stations here, WDTL, it's a classic country station. We actually, for several years, we had Moby in the morning, and Moby was huge in Atlanta. Now he's been, and I want to say he may have been in Houston also, but we had him on the air. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But man, we had him on the air here, and what a talent! I mean, really good morning show here.
Well,
Lee, do you have something to add to that? Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Let me just hop in real quick. One of the things that was brought up that made some sense to me, even though I really dislike it as an old radio guy, is a show like Seacrest, where it's just kind of, I look at it as kind of vanilla wallpaper, but that audience, that top 40 audience, it's Seacrest, and they love listening to him because it's Ryan Seacrest and the people that he knows and hangs around with. They don't care that it doesn't originate from that studio. They just like Ryan Seacrest. Yeah. And I think that's kind of been a little bit of a change too in radio with syndication, that, it's always been about the content. And unfortunately with the standards kind of lowering over the years with some of the people on the air, that's, it's opened the door for the Seacrests of the world to really put out a product that people enjoy, like Moby. And we run the Woody Show on a couple of our stations. People love that. So Bobby Bones is another example. So, as much as I've never been a fan of syndication, there's a reality there that people don't really care who it is as long as they're good.
Lee, what do you have to add to that?
Well, actually, I hate voice tracking. I thought it was the death of radio until I had to do it. And I like it. It's crazy. I can sit at home, play a show. I thought it would be the death of radio, and I'm right. It has become the death of radio. I mean, I can hire a guy from New York to be in Beaumont, Texas. No, that is not right. No, I want local talent, live local. I hate Casey Kasem and the top 40 thing and all that. I love that kind of thing on Sunday. Not like drive time, 6 to 8 is 10 p. Come on.
Sure. Well, and I get you on that. Now we're almost all voice track, but all of our, we all hire local people that voice track, because all of our stations are regional. So we're all in Wisconsin. So all of our voice tracking people are Wisconsin, and they do, a couple of our stations north and south or whatever. But we're all from the area, so we know it well. But I think that there are, again, one of the things we talk about with voice tracking is, if you screw something up really badly, you can always do it over. We do a lot of just-in-time voice tracking where we voice track, 10, 15 minutes before the track goes on the air. And we like to be able to do that. I think it gives some flexibility to the people on the air. We've actually saved some money on real estate because we don't have to have 10 studios for 10 stations or, that sort of thing. So there's been some upside, and I think it was inevitable. But you're right. It has lost some of the magic. And if I had unlimited funds and could support it, I certainly would love to have people in the seats all day.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Lee is not in favor of AI voice tracking. That's done by
I don't think anybody is that yet.
AI can go to hell. Come on, guys, come on.
Hey, we've got
if they can do my monster truck commercial like I do, it's coming to Moana's Gravedigger. Blow me. Just saying.
we got one more quick break to do here, and then we're going to come back with a final word from Chris Tarr and from Lee Melton. And I love the excitement and the passion of this show. Engineers get passionate about things, but man, people who are on air, we have opinions, and I'm glad to hear them. Hey, This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Broadcasters General Store, and one of the lines that they represent is Vox Pro. Vox Pro has been a favorite of DJs, on-air people, talk show hosts, doing all kinds of different jobs. We think of it as something to record phone callers, and it certainly is, but it can record other things too, long-form programs. It can delay things. It can help you do just-in-time voice tracking. So let's check it out. Vox Pro. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of Vox Pro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used Vox Pro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
Ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound caller 9. I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you will be glad you did.
Actually, call your friends at Broadcasters General Store because they'll give you a discount when you call them about Vox Pro. The website, bgs.cc. The phone number, 352-622-7700. BGS stands for Broadcasters General Store. I've been buying from them since the late 1980s, sitting in Sam Phillips' office in Memphis, Tennessee. He said, call them pretty girls over at BGS and let's get a good price. So they're good folks. Thanks a lot, BGS, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Chris Tarr is here, and Lee Melton is here as well. It's time for a quick tip of the week before we have to go. And I'm going to hit Chris up first. Lee, you be thinking of a tip you'd like to leave our listeners with. Chris, take it away. You got a tip for us?
All right. Well, I'll do an engineering tip, even though we've been talking about being on the air, which I've been now for 2 weeks. Been having fun. Classic Country 106.5. So anyway, my tip this week is, as we mentioned at the top of the show, I put in a new Valcom antenna on my AM station a little farther north here in Wisconsin. And it's about keeping an open mind to this new stuff. Now, Valcom is kind of an interesting new design for AM antennas. There's no free lunch. There are some trade-offs with it, but when the tower fell, my first thought was, well, I'm going to get another tower put up and we'll just do the traditional AM thing. And I talked to another engineer, said, hey, you should check out Valcom. They're, fairly inexpensive, easy to put up. And at your frequency for a single tower, it's really super, it's a no-brainer. And I kind of was hesitant because, you look at that and you go, well, how's that, how well could it possibly work? Da, 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 da. Well, I'm here to tell you it worked perfectly. I mean, it took 2 days to install, get it on the air. The coverage is almost identical to what it was with the original steel tower. And again, the people at Valcom are just super, super cool to work with. So, if I had been set in my ways of this is how we've always done it, I wouldn't have done that. And I think I would have missed out because this was, I think, the best decision we made in this particular situation was going with that particular antenna. Muted.
I'd like to get a full report on
your
that
microphone.
from you
There we go.
on a future show.
I'd love to talk more about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a picture?
It looks. Yeah. Does it work on CB channel 19 or is it for?
Well, mine is all white. I didn't paint mine, but it's a really interesting design. It really is.
Nice. I want to hear more about that. Yeah, we engineers wonder, does that thing really work? It's not very big, So we got to compare the HEBA antenna and the Valcom.
Yeah, I mean it's not super efficient, and I actually had to reduce power a bit at night because of Skywave, because it is the short top-loaded antenna. But again, when you're looking at nowadays with AM towers and finding people who can maintain them and getting permits to put things up, I mean this was a home run.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Lee Melton has been our guest. Lee, we're looking for a tip of the week. What wisdom would you like to leave all those engineers and want to be on the air people like me?
Never do an overhead ground system. We tried that. It took us 3 years to realize it wasn't going to work. Bury in the ground, copper. But yeah, the overhead ground system, I put up 78 or 81 telephone poles. We ran copper up on the sky. It didn't work. And Dave Bionde, who and Dave Bionde tried this new ground system overhead. It didn't work. So stay with what you know.
I'm glad you mentioned Dave Biondi, friend of yours and engineer for you, and I met Dave Biondi several times. Good fella.
I love Dave to death. In fact, he's now doing Spanish, I think, out of Houston. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know 2 Spanish words. I know Spanish words: enchilada and taco. That's it.
It's a lot of time. Well, I'm married to a Spanish-speaking person, and so I've had to learn some Spanish, and I've also.
You have to be nice too, because they have a temper from hell.
Oh, she's only gotten mad at me a couple times when I mispronounced something or accidentally. I think one day I was trying to learn my Spanish and I accidentally called her a swamp donkey. That didn't go over very well.
Really? Really? That's crazy. Come on, man, have a sense of humor.
Hey, we've got to go. I've had smiled and laughed so much during this show. Leith Melton, thank you for being with us. I appreciate hearing about some of your adventures and your early start in radio at KFI and how it all went downhill from there. So, thanks very much.
Thank you. And I'm loving your life. Thank you.
Chris Tarr, I have missed you. I'm glad you're back to be with us this week. By the way, Chris Tarr, if you can be with us next week, we're doing the show from the new WSM studios in Nashville.
Oh, man, is Jason going to be on?
Yeah, Jason could. Yeah, he's going to be my guest.
I met Jason. He took me on a tour down there last year when I was in Tennessee. So yeah, I'll try to get in there to say hi to him. Yeah.
Okay. Good deal. Thanks a lot. And thanks especially to our show producer, and that is Suncast. Does a great job of handling even last minute difficulties. Really appreciate you, Suncast. Thanks very kindly. Lee Melton has been our guest and Chris Tarr, co-host, and we got to go. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.